Welcome along to Friday Forum Live, coming to you direct from Point Blank here in Hoxton, East London. My name's Luke Hopper, and today I'm joined here in the studio by Nigel Hosten, aka Mr.Dex, who's going to be guiding you through some basic and intermediate scratch techniques. It's also your chance to get involved, so make sure you post any questions you've got in the chat room, anything technical about the techniques Nigel's demonstrating, or if it's something more general about Point Blank, just post it up in the chat room and we'll do our best to get through everything at the end of the session. Just before we get into it, I'll give you a quick rundown of what's been happening this week at Point Blank. So first up, we welcomed Riverstar for a live music production masterclass on Wednesday. The full session is now available to watch back online via the YouTube channel. Just head over to youtube.com/pointblankonline, where you'll find the full session. River took us through a couple of his projects within Ableton Live and really got an insight into his work in the studio. Also, we've just recently caught up with Sasha, the legendary Sasha, for an exclusive interview ahead of his new album, which is set to drop in the coming months. You can read that in full over on Point Blank Plus. And finally, we've also got the full range of online courses and college courses starting in April. As of the week of April the 1st, everything is good to go. So if you want to find out more about the courses we do, head over to pointblankonline.net or pointblanklondon.com, or get in touch with one of the course advisors and you can get all the info, all the rundown of what's going on and how to get started. So yeah, that's probably enough from me. What I'm going to do is hand you over to Nigel, who's going to give us a bit of an insight into the world of scratching. So over to you, man.
Cheers, mate. All right, afternoon all. As Matt just said, I'm going to basically go through a rundown of some scratch techniques that we teach here at Point Blank Music College. First of all, before we get into the techniques, take a brief look at the equipment. What I'm using here today are two Technics 1210 turntables. By most DJs that ever used vinyl, you know, we swear by these as the industry standard. Also what we have here is a DJM 900 Nexus Pioneer mixer, top-notch mixer, again, industry club standard mixer, so if you can afford one of these, you're onto a winner. As you'll notice, as opposed to having my turntables in the normal direction with the tone arm on the right-hand side, I've got it facing long ways, which is called battle mode. This innate means that when I'm scratching or manipulating the vinyl, that my hand is not going to be anywhere near the arm in the manipulation, hence I shouldn't knock it off while I'm scratching. Quick look at the mixer. I'm using channels 1 and 4. Here are my channel faders. These control the volume for either deck. And here we have a crossfader, which determines which deck I'm listening to at any one time. So over to the right, I'm hearing deck B, over to the left, deck A, and if I have the fader anywhere in the middle, I would hear a combination of both decks if I have both of them playing simultaneously. So what we're going to look at is several scratches, but they're broken down into faderless, closed fader, and open fader scratches. First of all, we look at some of the faderless or record movement scratches. First one we're going to look at is the baby scratch. We're going to start at the very beginning. The baby scratch is a technique that was developed by Grand Wizard Theodore back in the mid-70s. And quite simply, in order to do the baby scratch, you simply move the record forward and backwards. Fast, slow, or a combination of both. Okay, as you notice, there is only my hand on the record, has nothing to do with the favor. So we get the different rhythmic patterns depending on how we push the record back and forth and the timing of that. Okay, pretty simple technique to start off with, but as with all techniques, if you really want to get to grips with it, you want to try and apply the technique over a beat. The trick here when you're selecting the beat is that you pick a beat that's at the tempo that you can scratch to. If the record is too fast or the CD is too fast, simply use your pitch adjuster to bring it down to a speed where you can scratch at. So we're going to start around here and we give it a go like this. Okay. Once you've picked up your scratch technique, your hands got used to the mechanics of the movement, feel free to increase the speed of the record to practice your scratch at new tempos. Let's try this. besides me changing the pitch of the record, you should notice that I'm scratching on the beat, yeah? On the beat, on the 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, regardless of what the tempo of the record is, my hand has to follow the beat. Okay, so similar to a sort of percussive patterns that a drummer would make. You have to stay on beat, okay? So that's our baby scratch. The next one is the tear. And in order to do the tear, same thing, we keep the fader open. When we say open, that means that we can hear the sound if we're moving the record forwards and backwards. Closed, clearly I'll hear nothing. With the tear, it's very similar to the baby, but we're going to extend it just a little bit by adding a third movement, which is a pause in between the movement of the record. So, for example, if I push the record forwards, instead of bringing it right back to the start point, I'll bring it back in 2 strokes. So in continuous motion, it should sound like I'm tearing a piece of paper. Okay, you can do it another way. You can do it 2 forward and 1 back. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Alternatively, you can do 2 forward and 2 backwards. Okay, and that is your tear scratch. These techniques are very important because, as with all scratch techniques, the movement of the record is key in the patterns that you are trying to produce through your speakers. Moving along, we're going to go to our first fader technique. We're going to start off with the close technique, and we're going to do the first scratch as the cut. Okay, cut was popularized by Grandmaster Flash, and with the cut, it's very similar to the baby scratch. Only difference is that we're only allowing the forward sound of the movement of the record out of the speakers. And to do that, if you can see my hand here, I've got my thumb on the inside of the fader, and I'm using my outer fingers, my index finger, my middle finger, to tap the fader, and with my thumb resting on the fader, it's like a spring that will just knock it back to its original start point once the pressure of the flick has gone. As I flick the record, I want to let the vinyl go so I can hear the scratch sound released. Close it, then I'll bring it back to its start point. Again, bring it back. It's important, of course, that you close it before bringing it back, or else we're going to hear the back scrape, and we don't want that on this occasion, just a forward sound. Okay. You will also notice that I have a marker on my record. Whether you're using vinyl or CDJ or you're using MP3 software, you should be able to set a cue point for the sound that you're looking to scratch. And with this sound, if you look at the marker, as I close the fader, I'm bringing that marker back to my start point. So that's how I know where I'm at whenever I'm performing my scratches. So once again, okay, and likewise, the record hand, it's important that the record hand moves with the record, okay, because if I leave it in a stagnant position and I let go, if I now go to bring it back, okay, I'm now in an awkward position to try and start cutting from here, which is not really comfortable. So keep my hand placed about 9 o'clock, and from there, follow the record, flick the fader forward. Okay, again, we drop it over the beat. Don't forget, go at a speed that's comfortable to you before you increase to much faster speed. So let's give that a try again. Okay, and that's the cut. Our second close fader technique we have is the transformer scratch. Transformer scratch, because it's been named after the popular 80s cartoon of Transformers. And The whole idea was that the sound of the scratch was meant to mimic the sound of the robots transforming from the cars into robots. And well, we'll see what you think. It's very similar to the cut in that I'm going to release the record, flick the fader as the record's going forward, so I hear the sample coming out of the speakers. The difference is this time is that my hand has to follow the record a little bit more, and I need to add a few more flicks of the fader in order to create more rhythmic patterns. So instead of just these little stabs that I'm doing on the cut, I allow the record to go forward and I get a sort of gated effect by continually flicking the fader. Okay, the transformer scratch. Again, here it's really crucial that you get to grips with this fader technique of keeping your thumb as the main pressure point on the inside of the fader and allowing your fingers to lightly tap on the outside to get that sort of springy effect. Okay, once again, over the beat. Okay, that's the transformer. Moving on to our first open fader technique. We're going to look at something called the chirp. Okay, the chirp scratch was popularized by Jazzy Jeff on his song The Magnificent, where he took this whistle sound or the beep and make it sound like a bird. Okay, how we do that? We start with the fader open. When we say open, remember that's off of the contact point of the mixer. And we're keeping it somewhere in between. As I push the sound forward, I want to close the fader. As I bring it back to its start point, we open the fader again. So forward, back. Faster. Okay, that's your chirp scratch. Something I should point out at this point here, depending on which mixer you're using, you should have a crossfader curve adjuster. And all this does is simply determines the curve of your crossfader as you're moving it from side to side. When you're scratching, you'll want this set to its sharpest setting, as I have it over here. So if you notice, as I'm pushing the record forward and backwards, if I move the fader over, there should be no fading out of the sound. It should be a straight on or off situations. Yeah, sound completely off. If I push it all the way over to the softest curve, and I do that again, already you can hear it fading out. Okay, having it over on a softer setting is more useful if you're blending records, particularly if you're doing a lot of electronic music, a lot of house music and such. This softer curve will be more ideal for you. If you tend to play things like hip hop, you're going to want the sharp setting because there's a lot of drops and cuts and very immediate sounding effects that this will be very useful for. So again, the chirp over the beat. That's the chirp. Moving on to our next open fader technique, we have the tear. Sorry, we covered the tear, my mistake. The one-click flare. One-click flare, keep the fader open. And what we're going to do is we're going to create two sounds out of the sample that we have by giving a click on our fader. When we say a click, we mean to quickly close it and open it using our thumbs and index and middle fingers. So it's sort of like a pinching technique. Okay, and I want to apply that click as I'm pushing the record forward, and at the same time as I'm pushing it, as I'm bringing it back. So as the record goes forward, here's my first sound, click, and go forward, my second sound. Coming back, click, back to beginning. Again, 1, 2, coming back, 3, 4. Over the beat. It's very tempting when you're practicing your scratches to just have your hands run 100 miles an hour. Not a good idea, all right? Try and stick to the speed that you're comfortable at. Okay, if you have to slow down the song that you're scratching over, please do so, because once your hands get used to the mechanics, your speed will pick up naturally. So over the beat. One click flare. That's one of the advantages of doing open fader scratches, is that it allows you to switch between techniques a lot more seamlessly rather than just coming from the closed position, as you'll see with some of the other techniques. So you've got your cut, you've got your transformer, and once you're open, you can go straight into your chirp or your one click flares. Back to transformer from close. So developing the hand skills to go from closed techniques to open techniques can do a lot for you in the long run. After the one click flare, you have the double click flare or two click flare, also known as the orbit. And again, all we're doing is adding a second click to give us 3 sounds going forward and 3 sounds coming back instead of the 2 on the one click flare. So again, cue up your scratch sample, record goes forward. One click, second click, and again. Okay, so that's 3 sounds each way. 1, click, 2, and 3. Come back, 1, click, 2, 3. Okay, if you've been paying attention so far, you'll notice that this sounds somewhat similar to the transformer technique. The 2 click. Transformer. Okay, over the beat. So as you've seen there, you can do it, you know, reasonably fast speed, or you can slow it down as much as you need to. Everything doesn't have to be fast. Sometimes some of the better patterns come out when you're slowing it down, and sometimes it's best to just mix them both up just to create variety in your scratch techniques. So that's the single click and the double click flare. Okay, the next technique that we're going into, this can be done either closed or open. Okay, and this is the crab scratch. This is a more advanced technique. It's a technique that became very popular in the 90s, and it's achieved by running your fingers along the crossfader, again with your thumb on the inside. Now, most people, or some people, can do it with 4 fingers. I'm more comfortable doing it with 3, and the whole idea is that each one of your fingers snaps across the fader, as opposed to using your wrist as you would have done in the transformer technique. So by doing it this way, it's a more efficient movement to create multiple sounds. Let's cue up our sound. Okay, that's the closed crab scratch. The open one, again, I find this a little easier to adapt to. Same principle, this time your thumb is the catalyst. So as your thumb pushes the fader to the closed position, your fingers are ready to spring it back. Starting from the open position. Okay, that's the open crab scratch. Very quickly, one more time, over the beat. What I'm going to do here, I'll do a combination of both of them, going from closed to open and back again. So we'll start off with the closed. Open. Okay, it's the open and closed crab scratch.
I think it's approaching time, Nigel.
Yep.
But actually, we've got a couple of questions that have come in.
Sure.
One of them from Funkmaster Buzz, who said he actually thought the transformer scratch, the name of it, came from using transformer switches on a mixer or something like that?
No, it's a good point. Transformer switches were used a lot, again back in the 80s in particular, to get the same effect. You call it the transformer switch, but it's actually the line switch. Yes, the line switch that allows you to switch between the phono or the line signal on your mixer. That's a good observation.
Yeah, but it's actually from the cartoon.
It's actually from the cartoon.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's actually from the cartoon.
Wow.
Yeah, I hope it actually sounded like the robot. At least at some point.
Go back and watch the film somewhere. Also, Andreas has asked, it might not be a question for now. She said that is there any way to change the curve of the crossfader in Ableton when using the APC controller? I guess that's something that we'll definitely get one of the Ableton shooters to look into. I'm not an Ableton user myself, but I think Freddie, will get him to jump on the chat room in YouTube. Yeah. I'm sure he can answer that question.
It's a good question. I mean, I've used the crossfader in Ableton also. It's not something I have seen, but it's again a good question.
Yeah.
Something needs to be looked
into.
into.
We'll definitely look into it, and I'm sure that Live 9, the new one's probably got some capability there as well. So yeah, I think that's about it from us. Nice one, Nigel. That was wicked. Many thanks for coming down, and I'm sure we'll get you back again, even more advanced than the crab scratch there. I'm definitely going to go home and be practicing. For
Yeah. I feel like I was just getting started, just warming up, as you can see.
It's pretty hot in there. Right, so yeah, that's it from us. If you do have any more questions, guys, just post in the chat room on the comment section, and we will do our best to answer everything, even if it's later today or next week as well. And yeah, that's it from us. I think we'll be back next week. We've got another masterclass lined up during the week, and of course, Friday Forum will be here next Friday. So yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.